Hello everyone and welcome to this video. Now today I'm really excited to be joined once again by my good friend Ollie Saunders. How are you doing, Ollie?
I'm very good, Ross. How are you doing?
Yeah, I am really good, thanks. So today we are going to be doing another video looking at our top 10 albums of the 60s. I can see that Ollie has come dressed particularly appropriately for the occasion. Like I said, I've not got anything quite as flamboyant as that. And the glasses as well. Right, well that's the thumb and the Lennon hat. Fantastic.
Can put them
Right.
on for the video.
Well, come in handy for the thumbnail, that.
Yes. Put
Yes.
them on.
So anyway, yeah, so we're doing our top 10 albums of the 60s. The only real ground rule we set for this was one album allowed per artist. I think otherwise our lists would be probably heavily taken up by one or two key artists.
Or Scouse blokes, let's be honest, Ross.
Yes. So we decided, to limit it one album per artist. So that made it a little bit more interesting. Would you say, Ollie, that your favourite decade is the 60s? I know that you are a big fan.
Yeah,
You reckon it
yeah,
is?
definitely. Yeah, definitely. To me, it's a funny one. I felt like 60s is the peak. If I had to rank them, it would go 60s, then the 70s, then the 80s, then the 90s. And then, well, really, to me, the 90s is where it gets less interesting. So, yeah, I just feel like the 60s was quite, well, it was like the world coming out of black and white and into Technicolor. But yeah, it's just an exciting era. It was just a great time for music as well. And most of the great stuff to me came out probably that back end of the from about 65 to 69. That period of the 60s was just an incredible time for music.
That you've done like a great, I think is it just one video so far like on like your favourite songs of the 60s?
Yeah,
like, the series you started and I've quite
I
kept up.
started, and yeah, I've meant to do a second one, and I've still never done it. But yeah,
well, we
I will
look
at some
forward to
point.
that. But
Thank
in
you.
the meantime, we thought that we would just rank our 10 favourite albums of the 60s. So without much further ado, I'll let you go first, Ollie, with your number 10.
Yeah, so all these albums I own except this one, so I haven't got one to hold up here. But it's an album I only discovered about, I think it was last year I discovered it, and it's an album called Daydream by the Lovin' Spoonful.
It's one of those days for taking a walk outside.
Last year, a little shameless plug here, I did a series on my channel called Revolver in Depth, where I looked in depth at each track on Revolver. And when I did an episode on, I think it was Good Day Sunshine, the song itself, Daydream by the Lovin' Spoonful, came up a lot in that video because it was a big reference for the Beatles at that point, and people were saying that they are the next Beatles at that point in the 60s. So I didn't really know anything about the Lovin' Spoonful other than what's that song? Hot Damn Summer in the City.
Yeah.
That one, yeah. So I checked out Daydream and I was like, this is a really, really good tune. So then I checked out the rest of the album and I was like, this is really, really good stuff. It's not the greatest album ever made, but I just enjoy it. And there's some great stuff on it, like the title track Daydream is great. You Didn't Have to Be So Nice, I think they were the two singles. That's also really good. Butch's Tune, I like that one too. There's some cool stuff on there. I mean, I don't know if you're massively familiar with the album, but it's one of those just very 60s sounding albums. It's a bit folk sounding as well, folk rock. So yeah, that would be my number 10, the Lovin' Spoonful with Daydream.
Okay, yeah. I haven't listened to that album. I've only got a hits compilation of the Lovin' Spoonful. That's the only thing I know off them. And I do quite like some of the tracks on that. So yeah, no, that's definitely one that I will be checking out, I think. So my number 10 was an album that I've only recently actually just picked up. I actually got this shipped over from America.
Wow.
Actually, yeah. So it cost me like a little bit of money, this one, but it's an album by a band called The Left Bank.
She may call you up tonight, then what could
Have
I
you ever heard of these? The Left Bank.
Never heard of them.
Well, they're kind of like I guess kind of chamber pop, baroque pop sort of vibe. Think of like the Stones doing Ruby Tuesday kind of sort of vibe of that. Just like really like strong band. Like you might know the song like Walk Away Renee. Like I think like that was a bit of a hit. Like in like the 60s, like for like them. But it's just a really well made album, great harmonies, great arrangements on it, like kind of like really nice, like orchestrated like tracks on it. My favourites on it probably would be like She May Call You Up Tonight is like really good. I've got Something on My Mind, Let Go of You Girl. Yeah, there's just like a lot of like really like good songs there. 1967, this one came out. They only really had this, and I think they had one other album, and then just sort of faded like into like obscurity. But they're a bit of a kind of cult band, like a bit of an influence on another one of my favourite bands, like Belle and Sebastian. They've got like kind of twee pop sort of thing going on. So yeah, the Left Bank, what and like I mean, the album's got a weird name. It's Walk Away with a Pretty Ballerina is like the name like off like the album, like the two singles like from it. So yeah, they weren't very creative like with like their album names, but it's a really good record. This, albeit quite a difficult one to find. So yeah, I had to get this shipped over like from like America.
I was gonna say I've never even seen this record kicking about. So I'm gonna that record. Looking at the cover alone, that looks very me. So I'm gonna have to go and check that out. Right then, my number 9. This is an album which is quite a famous one from the 60s. If I can get it out its little sleeve here. Right, hang on. I have got The Band by The Band. So this is I think it's their second album, and for me it's their best album. The first one I quite like as well, but this one is much better. The band obviously was Bob Dylan's backing band. They were called the Hawks originally, and then they were involved on Blonde on Blonde, but I think they sort of got abandoned. Dylan sort of abandoned them half for the sessions, and then they were heavily involved in the Basement tapes. But this is just the band on their own, and it's them doing what they do best. I mean, there's some beautiful songs on here. The Night They Drove Old Dixie Down is one of the most beautiful songs I've ever heard. Up on Cripple Creek, it's just like this really sort of swamp rock kind of, a little bit Creedence sounding thing. Rag Mama Rag, it's just, yeah, there's some great stuff on here. It's Robbie Robertson here doing what he does best. The rest of the band as well are firing on all cylinders here. Yeah, there's not really a lot much to say about it, other than it is one of the greatest albums ever. And it's, 1969. There's I think we've got other albums from 69 on this list, maybe. So that maybe says something about that year. But yeah, The Band by The Band is one of my favourite albums from the 1960s, number 9.
Again, not one that I'm overly familiar with. I think I know a couple of the ones that you mentioned, like The Night We Drove Dixie Down and Rag Mama Rag. I think I like those ones. But again, I don't even think I have anything of theirs. Like not even like a hits compilation. So need to get on that. So my number 9 is by an artist who I think you'll be showing later, and quite a bit later, I think, knowing you. So I've got number 9, a Bob Dylan album, and I've gone for Bringing It All Back Home.
He understands your orphan with his gun.
I was really struggling with Dylan because initially I had I was going to go with Blonde on Blonde as the pick because that's a great album. That there's so many fantastic songs on it and like sprawling tracks like Visions of Joanna, Sad Eyed Lady, Off the Low. Like just great, sprawling. Like Dylan at his best. But this album was one that I just kind of thought about and was like, actually, this is I probably slightly prefer it. I think it's a good mix of the kind of it's really Dylan in transition. This is, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but was this the first one he did with an electric band? Yeah. So the first side of this is those kind of Dylan Goes Electric kind of songs. So you get stuff like Subterranean, Homesick Blues, Maggie's Farm is a great one, and then a few kind of softer ones as well. Like She Belongs to Me is a really lovely lovely ballad. Love Minus Zero, No Limit. That's an incredible song. And then side 2 is arguably even better. It's slightly more that's the more kind of traditional Dylan acoustic songs. But you get Mr. Tambourine Man, Gardens of Eden, It's Alright Ma, I'm Only Bleeding, and It's All Over Now Baby Blue. I mean, I think those are 4 of Dylan's very best songs. So for me, I ended up I played this and I thought, actually, I do think this is slightly better than Blonde on Blonde. So yeah, maybe I did see your eyebrows raise a little bit when I picked this one, but yeah, I think this is his best album, and it's my number 9 pick of my 60s albums.
Well, you'd be right. He is still to come on my list in a little bit. But I'll be honest, I thought you would have one of the two that come after, either Highway 61 or Blonde on Blonde. I'm quite shocked that, Bringing It All Back Home is a brilliant album. I mean, like we say, it's where he went electric. And the thing I love about it as well, Subterranean Homesick Blues, the way it starts, like the first 2 seconds of it is just like teasing with just an acoustic guitar, and then the electric guitar comes in.
Yeah.
Just to wind people up. But
yeah, you can imagine someone hearing that for like the first time thinking like they were going to get like another side of Bob Dylan again, sort of thing. And then suddenly that kind of kicks in. It's like, what the heck is this? You know?
But I'll say more on Mr. Dylan in a bit. But
I'm sure you will.
Now, yes, I certainly will. My number 8. This is another one of the most famous albums of the 60s. It is The Velvet Underground and Nico. Funnily enough, by The Velvet Underground and Nico.
Sunday morning.
So, I mean, this cover alone is iconic. I've still never peeled the banana off on mine, but Andy Warhol at his best. This is just very much that underground 60s New York scene. It's Lou Reed probably at his peak on here. I mean, Sunday Morning, the opening track, is one of my most favourite songs ever. It's especially on a Sunday. It's good to listen to. It's all about the idea of you've been on a night out on a Saturday and then walking home with the paranoia of being on your own and surrounded by voices and stuff like that. But anyway, and then the second track as well, I'm Waiting for the Man, is fantastic. And then some of Nico's tracks on here are great as well. I can never remember which ones are hers off the top of my head. All of Tomorrow's Parties, that is a great tune. It's just one of those albums now. I think it's probably more famous now than it was back then. It sort of went under the radar at the time. It's not my favourite Velvet Underground album, though. My favourite one is actually Loaded, but that one came out in 1970, so I can't class that as a 60s album. Otherwise, that would be on this list above this one. But this is definitely their most famous. It's their most iconic. The artwork is fantastic. It is fabulous. So that is my number 8, The Velvet Underground and Nico. I'll be interested to see, Ross, if you have that on your list or not.
It was on my long list because I do actually own that one. It's the only Velvet Underground one that I own. And I really like the first side of it. I think side one's great. Side 2, there's a couple of tracks. I think, is it like the last one that's especially
European
difficult?
Sun.
I think it might be that one. I remember having it on, and my girlfriend was in like the living room here, and after about because it's about a 7-minute track, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's all just crazy feedback and stuff. And I think after about 3 minutes, she's like, Ross, you have to switch this off. You know? Normally, she can tolerate a lot of my music, but that, and even me, I was kind of thinking that's a bit much. So we ended up, like that one, slightly like the album ended like on like a bit of like a downer for me. But certainly, like you say, tracks like Sunday Morning, like All Tomorrow's Parties, and really great kind of classic 60s tracks.
Yeah.
So my number 8. Is this album here by Scott Walker, and it's a Scott 4.
And it crushed it to the ground. Just like...
So Scott Walker was in like a band called the Walker Brothers, although they weren't actually brothers at all. Like they were just like sort of like cobbled together like by like a record label. Like he was Scott Engel was his kind of like birth name, and basically Walker Brothers had quite a bit of success like in like sort of like the mid 60s. Like in I think 1967 broke up. Scott Walker went solo and made a number of solo albums, each one getting slightly more out there and adventurous and and like advanced kind of thing. So this one, Scott Ford's from 1969, and I think is like the best off like the bunch really. Like it's just such a gorgeous album in terms of like it's quite kind of chamber pop still, but there's also a bit more of a kind of it's a little bit more ballsy than some of like his other albums. There's more of a kind of rhythm section going on like on like some of like these tracks. So tracks like like The Seventh Seal, The World's Strongest Man is great, Angel of Ashes is just absolutely beautiful song. The strings on that, and like I don't know like if you've heard Scott Walker sing before, but he's got such a great kind of baritone voice. It's just an absolutely fantastic singer. And then there's other great tracks there like The Old Man's Back Again, Get Behind Me is a really good rousing number there. So there's a gatefold to it there. This is just a reissue because again, this was an album that very much went under the radar. Like I think like with Scott Walker, so like Scott 1 and 2 and that were quite successful albums, but then by the time he got to Scott 3 and then this one, I think this completely failed to chart, and he's kind of been quite underrated like ever since really. But you know, he is highly regarded among sort of like again a bit like the Velvet Underground, among more sort of like 80s 90s artists. Jarvis Cocker's a massive Scott Walker fan, for example. I think Julian Cope from the Teardrop Explodes did a kind of compilation of his songs and that, which kind of got him like sort of like which kind of like got Scott Walker like a lot more like attention and like appreciation. So yeah, it's a really interesting record this Scott from 1969 there.
I've got to be honest, Ross, I've never heard that album before, but it sounds like it's another one of those ones I'm going to have to check out. I'm not massively familiar with Scott Walker. Yeah, I'll definitely have to check it out. Right then, what are we on? Number 7, is it?
7, yeah.
So, this one is one I have been listening to quite a bit recently. It is Stand by Sly and the Family Stone.
Stand, there's a cross for you to bear.
So this is a sort of proto-funk record. It was kind of funk a couple of years before funk really took off in the 70s. Sly and the Family Stone, they were kind of at the time a trailblazing band because they had white artists in it, they had black artists in it, they had men in it, women in it. So, you know, it was kind of, for that era anyway, quite a ahead of its time kind of thing. But anyway, this album, it's got some great songs on here. I mean, Everyday People is one of the defining songs of the 60s as far as I'm concerned, and its lyrics still resonate today. The title track and opening track, Stand, that is a great little funk record too. I Want to Take You Higher, Somebody's Watching You, Sing a Simple Song. There's so much great stuff on here. The second track as well, I can't really say the name of it on here because it's got an inappropriate word in it that starts with an N, so I shan't say that, Ross. But that's also a great song. Are you familiar with this album?
No, never heard of it.
So there is a song on here. If you didn't like European Sun on Velvet Underground, Nico, you won't like a song here called Sex Machine, because that is a 13-minute song, which is kind of an avant-garde sort of all over the place instrumental thing with making noises kind of thing. Think not Two Virgins type of thing, but it's kind of entering that ballpark a little bit on the sort of edges of it. But that's the only song I don't care for on here, but the rest of it is really, really good stuff, and I would recommend trying it because I do think you would quite enjoy some of the tracks on here. I mean, there's the back cover, and this is a repress.
Is that late 60s then, I take it?
That is 1960, 68 or 60, hang on, it's either 68 or 69. 69.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a great album. It's Sly Stone sadly passed away last year as well, so... Yeah, another great gone. But yeah, that's my number. What we're on 7, Stand by Sly and the Family Stone.
So my number 7, another kind of again, a lot of mine are actually realizing like we're in like a similar kind of psych pop kind of sort of like vein. It's by a band called the Zombies, Odyssey and Oracle. So this one is, again, another album that kind of at the time, no one really batted an eyelid about it. Just kind of went sort of like unnoticed. The Zombies had a couple of singles in like kind of like the mid-60s. I think there's a track called She's Not There is a really good song, like kind of a hit for them. And then they kind of, I think they then got dropped by the label or something, and then they made this. And it's a great kind of, again, psych pop, baroque pop sort of album. It's, again, got a lot of kind of like sort of like fans of the kind of like artists like who came after, like the next generation, like or like two like further like down the line. I think Paul Weller often cites this as one of his all-time like favorite albums, and there's just some great songs in it. Like I mean, like the opening track "Care Of Cell 44" is a really kind of, it's a kind of bouncy kind of Beatlesy song, great kind of McCartney-esque sort of bass line, but the lyrics are kind of about I think it's about being like in prison sort of thing. So it's a great kind of juxtaposition. And then there's other great kind of like romantic tracks there, stuff like like A Rose for Emily, Beechwood Park, like This Will Be Our Year is a really, really classic song there for me. And probably like the most famous song on here is Time of the Season, which was I think issued like as a single or something, or like it started to get radio airplay a few years after the album came out. And like I was reading, apparently like the Zombies kind of broke up like after like this album, but then when that song started to take off, apparently there was kind of sort of fake zombie like zombies, like bands, like sort of like going out there promoting that single. Like they weren't the actual band, but they were kind of like the record label, sort of like sort of said like these random people like out on tour and called them the zombies, and people like were like none like the wiser sort of thing.
Yeah, that's such a '60s thing to do. You wouldn't get, away with that
not
now.
Get away with that now, exactly, because it's just so like anonymous, really. I mean, I think there's maybe a couple of pictures of them like on like the back there, but they're not a distinctive looking band by any stretch of like the imagination, really. If anything, the kind of lead singer like in like the band, Colin Blunstone, had more success like as a solo artist, actually. Like in like the 70s, he had quite a few solo hits, I think. But yeah, it is just a really fantastic record here, and like one which I think is definitely now considered like a bit of a classic. That's certainly how I discovered it, was through the likes of Paul Weller singing its praises. But one that like at the time, like '67 it came out, like as you probably tell, matches your shirtless. Actually, I was going to say it's the same pattern. Yeah,
the shirt is inspired by do you know what that top McCartney wears in the video for "I'm the Walrus"?
Oh yeah,
that's what this is inspired from. So, but it does look a bit like that.
It does look a bit like that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, '67 kind of hippie kind of vibe on this one, but yeah, it's a great album.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I'm aware of that album, but I haven't actually heard it. The Zombies are one of them bands. I only really know like the big songs, and I do need to delve into them a little more, to be fair. Number 6. This is one, I imagine this band will appear on your list at some point, Ross. I am going with the Kinks and the Village Green Preservation Society.
You think the world's at your feet.
This is one of the early sort of concept albums, really. I mean, I know people say Sgt. Pepper was a concept album, but to me, Sgt. Pepper isn't really a concept album other than 2 songs on it, maybe. This is a full-scale concept album from start to finish. And again, the Kinks got this sort of image in the 60s of just being a singles band, and their albums were just forgotten about. And this is really the first album I think that is truly, truly a great album from start to finish. And again, it went completely under the radar. I think largely because they put it out for some stupid reason on the exact same day as the White Album. I mean, that is utter ludicrous. But no, some of the songs on here are fantastic. I mean, Starstruck is the standout song for me, but I also like Village Green and also the opening track, the Village Green Preservation Society. Sitting by the Riverside, that is a great song as well, especially to actually do what it says in the lyrics and sit by the riverside, especially when it's sort of like when the weather's cloudy at the minute, but when it's a sunny day at this time of year, to sit by the river and listen to that song is just the arrangements on here are great as well, and I mean, it came out obviously saying there's a White Album, but I don't really understand why it went under the radar so much at the time in the 60s. So that's my number 6 anyway, Village Green Preservation Society by the Kinks.
For sure, yeah, that one I have got to come, so I'll say a bit more about that when we get to that one.
Yes.
But for my number 6, I've gone with Bookends by Simon and Garfunkel.
Kathy, I said as we boarded a Greyhound in Pittsburgh.
Simon and Garfunkel, one of my favourite artists of all time. Paul Simon, Simon and Garfunkel, they were one of the first. He was one of the first artists I really got into, to be honest. So it was quite. I was going to say it wasn't too difficult to pick my best album of the 60s. I mean, my favourite would be Bridge Over Troubled Water, but that came out in 1970. So it kind of had to be Bookends, which again is a bit of a concept album, but they with a lot of concept albums off the time, they kind of started it and then just didn't kind of finish it off, sort of thing. So essentially, the first side of this is a kind of it's like all the songs sort of siege into each other, and it's kind of like the cycle of life, basically. So it starts with like a track called "Save the Life of My Child." Then you get like the great track like "America," which is this great tale of like this young couple on like a road trip going across like America. It's just a great lyrics, really well written, perfect song, really. And then you get "Overs," which is this great track about a kind of like a couple who are getting a bit fed up of like one another, and they're kind of the relationship's kind of got a bit sort of stale. Then you get Voices of Old People, which is was basically Art Garfunkel's moment like on the album, where he just sort of pulled together all these kind of tape loops of old people talking. He went into like old people's homes, recorded them, and they're saying all like these daft things that old people say and stuff. It's about a minute and a half long. But it kind of just is very 60s kind of thing. You wouldn't get that like in like any like other era, and then it finishes with Old Friends, which is just a brilliant, really touching song. So yeah, the whole first side is really, really great, and like has like the song cycle going through it, and then side 2 is basically just like their singles from like the time. So you get like Mrs. Robinson like on this album, you get like A Hazy Shade of Winter, which is one of my favourites off there, such a great punchy sort of song, and then also Faking It is a really underrated single, like as well. So yeah, they had to be like on like my list somewhere, Simon and Garfunkel, and yeah, they've come in at number 6.
That album, my long list, that'd have been at number 11, that one. So I'm like you, I'd say the best album is Bridge Over Troubled Water, but obviously that's 70s. But yeah, that is definitely their best 60s album. It is really, I agree with everything you said there. Anyway, my number 5 is a album which maybe will raise some eyebrows being this high, but it is, if you can believe, their Eyes and Ears by the Mamas and Papas.
All the leaves are brown, and the sky.
This is just a great album from start to finish. There's some really underrated stuff on here. So there's the 2 big singles, Monday Monday and California Dreamin'. California Dreamin' is one of the defining songs of the 60s. Monday Monday is a song that I tend to listen to on a Monday, funnily enough. But then the rest of side 1, Straight Shooter from John Phillips is a great little rock song. It's got a great riff on it. And then Got a Feeling, that's kind of like this sort of spaced out psychedelic sounding thing, which this was 1965 or 66, this 66, so it's just before like the proper psychedelic explosion. It's kind of early psychedelia. They do a cover of the Beatles' I Call Your Name on here, which is fantastic. You hear Mama Cass actually in the little solo bit in the middle actually saying, I think she keeps whispering John, because apparently she fancied John Lennon, so that's why she's doing that. And there's great stuff on the second side. The whole thing, I won't go over every track, but it's just a great 60s song from start to finish. And it was also a controversial cover. They put that there to cover the toilet, because apparently in the 60s you weren't allowed to show toilets on album covers. It was considered offensive. So yeah, that's my number 5 anyway. If you can believe, your Eyes and Ears. I put that at number 5.
Yeah, interesting, that one. Yeah, like I wasn't expecting you to show that one. Again, like I know of the Mamas and Papas. Never heard that album though. I can feel
worth a listen.
Yeah, no, I will listen to it. Yeah, California Dreaming is a great song. It's a song I've got quite a lot of fond memories of that with my granddad, and in the car, we'd listen to that and we'd sing the backing vocals and stuff. It's a song that holds a lot of likes or good memories for me. And I have also heard their version off I Call Your Name, and think it's a really good version. So
it is.
It's pretty good that all of that is kind of captured on that one album there. Okay, so my number 5 now, I think we're on to, is this album here by The Who. The Who Sell Out.
I can't reach you. I strain my eyes. I can't reach you.
So yeah, The Who in the 60s were a bit interesting. They kind of again went on a lot of different styles and that, the kind of My Generation, very kind of mod kind of quite sort of straight ahead kind of album, and then they went into this kind of quite whimsical kind of sort of fun direction for this album, which I think is a really underrated album, and they would kind of quite quickly grow out of it by the time you got to 1969's Tommy, and they were doing these sort of rock operas. This album's just got a kind of sense of innocence to it, which I do really like. It's also a really actually quite a successful concept album, I feel. This one, it's one where they actually are quite disciplined and actually do sort of stick to the concept for the most part throughout the album, which is basically just it's you're supposed to be listening to a radio show. So it's kind of you get the songs and then they're interspersed with jingles and kind of adverts and stuff. It's really fun. It's just a really fun album, this. And then within it there is also quite a few of some of my favourite Who songs. So you get I Can See for Miles, it's the big single that was on here.
Yeah.
But then you also get some great tracks, there's a song called I Can't Reach You, which is a really good one. Our Love Was, it's just really good melodic songwriting. Even at this point, they are showing their ambition, to sort of make something bigger kind of thing. But I think it's just a really, really fun, fun sort of feel good album.
I've always loved the cover of that album.
It is a good cover.
It's a great cover.
Yeah.
I haven't actually got The Who on my list. Again, they've just missed out, but to me, for the Who. I mean, Who's Next is their best album for me, as far as I'm concerned, but that's obviously 70s.
Yeah, that's my favourite as well. Probably if I do ranking it, probably would be Who's Next, and then probably Who. So I probably actually prefer that to like the other, like the rock opera albums.
Yeah. Anyway, number 4 for me. Right, one of the big bands of the 60s. Now we're going with the Rolling Stones, and it is A Beggar's Banquet from 1968.
But what's puzzling you is the nature of my...
This is not an original. This is the 50th anniversary edition with the sliding out controversial cover, which again is because it has a toilet. It's a common trend with the 60s. So this is the Stones' follow-up to Satanic Majesty's Request. Controversial album at the time, but one I actually really like. I've got a lot of time for it. But this was a return to form for them. And this is when they entered this period where their opening tracks just hit it out the park constantly. I mean, this opens with Sympathy for the Devil, which is about as good as it can get, until the next album, which was Let It Bleed, which opens with Give Me Shelter, which is probably the greatest opening track of all time. But as an overall album, I feel this one's better than Let It Bleed. It's quite an acoustic album, this one as well. There's not really that many rock songs. I mean, Sympathy for the Devil is probably that, and Street Fighting Man are about the only 2 rock songs on here. It's the last album as well where Brian Jones has really got any involvement in it. He's in a little bit of Let It Bleed, but nothing really of note. His slide guitar on No Expectation on here is beautiful. It's kind of the last proper thing he did for the Stones. Dear Doctor, I really like that one as well. It's sort of just like a comedy record about this guy who's supposed to be getting married to someone who he doesn't want to marry, and he's asking this doctor to pull his heart out because he doesn't want to get married. But then the girl runs off with his cousin or something, so he asks the doctor to put that heart back in. Jigsaw Puzzle's cool. Stray Cat Blues, that's the other rock song actually. That's a cool one. Factory Girl, Salt of the Earth. It's just a great album, this, from start to finish, and it is. I was going to say to Stones at their best. I think they probably did better albums in the 70s. Probably Sticky Fingers and Exile are better than this. But in terms of their 60s albums, for me, this is the best. I should have said actually at the start when I started doing these lists. For me, these albums, they're quite flexible. They may ask me again in a week's time. I might have a completely different list, and these might be in a completely different order. This is just as of today. I would say this is number 4, and this is the Stones' best album, but from the 60s. But yeah, that's my number 4 anyway. Beggar's Banquet by the Rolling Stones.
Solid choice there, yeah. I thought that there would be a Rolling Stones album in your list. I'm afraid to say there isn't actually one in mind. I did listen to quite a few of them because I've got all those 60s albums, but none of them were quite sort of like consistently great enough for me to be putting them on there. But certainly that one was probably my favourite, like off the bunch. I also like Between the Buttons as well. I think it's quite an underrated album, and Aftermath as well. Were probably the ones that I was kind of thinking about, like flirting with putting like on that list. But
Aftermath is a great one,
but I ended up just like, I knew that you'd show the Stones, so I knew that it would be
leave it to me.
completely left out the video. Absolutely.
Yes.
So my number 4 now is one that again I wasn't expecting to actually have like quite as high like on like the list. I thought it would be on here somewhere, but I just listened to it and I was like, I really, really love this album. And it's by a band who you wouldn't necessarily think of as an albums band. So it's the Small Faces. This is their 1967 album. It's just a self-titled one, Small Faces. Again, their discography is an absolute mess because they've got kind of 2 self-titled albums like on like different record labels, and then they've then got like non-album singles, and then there's certain ones that are kind of like they're compilation albums, but they could be a studio album. It's just an absolute mess. But this is kind of like almost like their first kind of proper, this is our sort of like an album kind of thing. So it came out in 1967, and it's just a killer album. And there's a real great kind of sense of like variety like on here. So yeah, you get like kind of Steve Marriott like as absolute like vocal like peak like on like the opening track like Have You Ever Seen Me. It's just absolutely fantastic. Like great kind of raspy vocal like from Marriott like on there. You've also got like great tracks like Things Are Gonna Get Better as a more kind of tender ballad. ballad, My Way of Giving. Green Circles is a kind of psychedelic like number, sung by like Ronnie Lane. So it's like a good balance between Marriott stuff and like Ronnie Lane's like material like on here. And then side 2's fantastic as well. Like Get Yourself Together's probably my favourite Small Faces song. That's just a killer track, like killer rocker. Talk to You's fantastic. Show Me the Way like is another like good slightly slower like Ronnie Lane number. So yeah, I just think that for like a studio album, this is really strong. And again, it could almost be a kind of greatest hits like off theirs, like in like some way, like even though you are still missing some of like their big hits, like Itchy Park for example, like was released like the same year, not on this album. In Soldier I think came out shortly after this, but again not on this album. So yeah, I think this is really strong here, and yeah, a really underrated record from the 60s for me.
Again, Small Faces are one of them bands I only really know the big singles, and the only album I really know was Ogden's Not Gun Flake. Was that the one after that one?
Not Gun Flake is, yes, that is the one that most people say is their signature album.
Yeah,
it's good, but it's a little bit out there. You know, they're all like kind of like the little like the nonsense narration between like the songs and stuff, and it's it's not one I go back to all that often.
I need to check out more of their other stuff because my dad, it's like, I think Small Faces is probably one of his favourite bands of the 60s, and he's seen Steve Marriott live back in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s. It will only be long before he passed away. Yeah, I'll definitely have to check them out at some point. Their stuff more deeply.
And that is a great record to go with. Yeah, well, that's a good one to start with.
Yeah. Right then, top 3. Maybe a predictable 3 for me, but let's just go in with an album that turned 60 recently. Pet Sounds by the Beach Boys.
God only knows what I'd be without you.
What is it to say about this album that hasn't already been said? I mean, it is just one of the all-time greats, even if it has got a terrible cover, but never mind that. It's Brian Wilson at his peak, really. This is the greatest thing he ever did. And it's interesting because at the time in America, this album flopped really, whereas it was over here, it did really well, because up until this point here in England, they didn't even really bother releasing Beach Boys records, because I think when they came to London for the first time and they played at the Albert Hall and they're singing their surf songs, they got laughed off the stage. And then they came back with this, and it just seemed to do something over here that America didn't seem to get at the time. But anyway, the tracks on here, I mean, every single track is brilliant. There's not one bad track on here. Wouldn't It Be Nice? God Only Knows. They're obviously probably the 2 big famous ones. You Still Believe in Me? That's Not Me. Don't Talk, Put Your Head on My Shoulder is one of my favourite songs ever. I Just Wasn't Made for These Times is probably my favourite song on the album. It's a song I have had a lot of personal meaning applied to over the years. But Caroline No as well, I've got a lot of personal meaning attached to that song. Swoop John B is great. It is just one of the greatest albums of all time, and believe it or not, when I first heard this album, I didn't really get it. I was a bit like, is that it? Because, you know, people are like, it's the greatest thing ever recorded, and I was listening to it and I was like, am I missing something here? Am I not getting this? But it has slowly grown on me over the years, and now I fully get it. It is one of the all-time greats. It is one of the defining albums of the 60s. So yeah, for me, number 3 is Pet Sounds.
Fantastic, yes. That one, I won't say too much about it because it will be coming somewhere, like on like the list. But at my number 3 now is one that you've already shown actually. So I think we're going to have a fair bit of crossover, like at like this kind of top 10, like off like the list possibly. So I've got Village Green Preservation Society, the Kinks, at number 3. Which, yeah, like you say, is probably their best album. Like I would say, like the Kinks. It's and like again, also like you said, it's a really successful concept album because they do stick the course like with it. Like, and it's not like a concept album like in the sense that all the songs flow into one another, or it's got silly kind of interludes between like the songs and that. It's just got a kind of mood and sort of like lyrical themes like on here, which are kind of quite concerning, I guess. nostalgia, like as like a kind of
Yeah.
like a general theme. But then other tracks like a lot more kind of personal, talking about sort of like things like like the aging process, or tracks like like Last of the Steam Powered Trains and Big Sky, sort of like things like like sort of like losing sort of like friends and that, like on like Do You Remember Walter? It's a great song. And then like sort of like different people's like attitudes like to like nostalgia, like Picture Book, for example, and people take pictures of each other. So I think this is just like a really strong record. I also quite like the production on it as well, because it's not a polished album by any stretch of the imagination. It's got a kind of roughness and rawness to it that I still which I do like really like appreciate. And like you say, it wasn't a hit album like at like the time, and it's a bit odd to think why, because I mean the Kinks were still pretty successful around this point. I mean, maybe their star had maybe slightly faded a little bit, but they were still having hit singles like Days, for example, came out the same year, which was a top 10 hit. And then I think they had Victoria from the Arthur album, like the next one was also like a hit single, but the albums were just doing nothing. So it's a bit strange. You just kind of like got like lost like a little bit, like the Kinks. But yeah, definitely an album that has got a lot of like reappraisal. And if you've seen like the documentary for this album, I think it was on Sky Arts a couple of like years ago, it's called Echoes of a World. That's basically just like a who's who of music, like, and it's saying how much they like this album. Like Noel Gallagher's in it, Weller's in it, and Andy Partridge from XTC. Everyone loves this album. Like everyone like in music has got time for the Kinks and Village Green. So yeah, great record there.
Anyway, number two, Ross.
Will it be Dylan or the Beatles?
Well,
I think it'll be Dylan.
If me from 2 years ago seen me doing this, I would not believe it.
Yeah. Oh.
Revolver.
I wander everywhere, and if she's beside.
I'd even doing this, not putting them first feels really, really weird. But maybe we'll just say the joint first. But anyway, Revolver. I have a funny thing with the Beatles, because I always rotate between what their best album is between three. It's either always Rubber Soul, Revolver, and White Album. So depending on what mood I'm in, it'll be one of them three. At the minute, I'm in a big Revolver mood. This is the Beatles probably around their creative peak in terms of their studio, in terms of trying to push themselves in the studio. It's also them at their coolest, I think, when they had the hair was at the best, they had the sunglasses on, they had the best shirts and everything. This was them at their best. Lennon, McCartney, Harrison on here, probably some of the best songs they ever wrote are on this album. I mean, McCartney in particular, his 5 songs on here are 5 of his all-time best songs. I mean, Here, There and Everywhere, for no one. He was only, 24 when he wrote that song? It's incredible. And I think that kind of adds to the charm of this album, because at this point, McCartney isn't taking acid like the rest of the band, so therefore his songs are a bit more grounded, whereas Lennon and Harrison's are much more sort of psychedelic sounding stuff. But yeah, speaking of Harrison, Love You Too, that is a great song. Some really good lyrics. I Want to Tell You as well is one of my favourite George Harrison songs, period. And Lennon as well. I mean, this is John Lennon definitely at his peak. After this, I don't think John Lennon did songs as good as this ever again. That's probably a very controversial thing to say, but I mean, he's got I'm Only Sleeping, She Said. Angie Bird Can Sing is a brilliant song. And then obviously the closing track, Tomorrow Never Knows. I mean, that still sounds like the future. Music still has never really caught up to that kind of experimentation to me. So yeah, I could sit and talk about this for ages and ages, but Revolver number 2, why am I saying it should be Revolver number 1? What's going on here, Ross? I feel like I've betrayed my Beatle lovingness, but yeah. Ask me again in a week's time, I'll probably be back at number 1. But there we go. That's my number 2.
I was going to say I was not expecting.
No.
That. No, I thought I was a shoo-in for number 1, but hey. So my number 2 again is one that you've already shown, and one that I think is a kind of predictable choice. So it's Pet Sounds. And yeah, just really everything he says. I think the songs just on a range from the achingly beautiful, so tracks like You Still Believe in Me, Don't Talk, Put Your Head on My Shoulder, like I Just Wasn't Made for These. Just heartbreaking, beautiful songs. It's sung really well, great arrangements on it, just fantastic. And then more kind of like I guess, sort of uplifting, kind of like sort of like I was gonna say like intricate, sort of like the more innovative studio concoctions, so stuff like like wouldn't it be nice kind of thing, which again wouldn't have really been possible, I don't think, like sort of like 2 or 3 years previous. You know, it was very much like sort of like grounded like in like sort of like the mid 60s period. And then some of my favorites actually like on side two. Like I know that you're not a massive fan of Here Today, for example, but that's one of my favorites like on the album.
It's
I
grown on
think
me
that
that now, to be fair.
has it grown on you? Yeah. I love
yeah.
the sound on that, like the organ work on it and like the guitar, and again just like the vocals and the kind of stop nature of it. It's just absolutely fantastic. I know there's an Answer's a really good one as well. Again, it's just a great sort of like I don't really think there's any other album that really kind of sounds like this, just in terms of like the instruments like that are used, again like the way that is sort of paired different kind of sort of harpsichords and mellotrons and stuff with like kind of like the Wrecking Crew, and it's just a really well put together album. And I've not even mentioned like the best song on here, God Only Knows. I don't even think that you mentioned that one, but that is just a fantastic, it's just a wonderful song. God Only Knows. Yeah, like I mean, like Paul McCartney said that's the greatest song ever written, like one that he wished he wrote, and I mean I can't really argue that. It's just a masterpiece.
It is. It's just that is what music is all about. That song.
Yeah.
Just, if you're a songwriter, I can understand why McCartney says that. I mean, I would be jealous. I mean, I'm not even a songwriter, but I'm jealous that I didn't write that song because it's that good.
There's a bit of a kind of tragic story like with like Wilson. He kind of made this album and then I think struggled very much for the rest of his career, you know, to reach this level of greatness again, you know, and kind of felt, you know, pressured to reach that level of greatness. But I think it just stands like as like a testament to just how much of a genius like he was.
Yeah.
And
again, it only been what 23, 24 when he did that.
Young guy, no, absolutely.
Yeah, younger than us. That's incredible. When you,
yeah,
crazy,
absolutely crazy. Yeah.
Speaking of absolutely crazy, I put a number one above the Beatles. So last year I did a video at the back end of last year on why Highway 61 is now my favourite album. And as a further sign of that being the greatest album ever made to me, when I was in the car earlier today with the radio on, Like a Rolling Stone came on, and I was like, oh, this is just, turn it up, this is just the best thing ever. So with that in mind, number one is Blonde on Blonde. This is an album that in the last few months has really, really grown on me, and it is... Yeah, I'm going to say it's my favourite. Well, it's not just my favourite 60s album, it is my favourite album at the minute. As I've mentioned, I did a video last year saying Highway 61 is my favourite, so obviously these things do change. But I think this is Bob Dylan at his absolute creative peak. It is when he is just at his most creative, musically speaking at least. Side one of this album is absolutely fantastic. I mean, that opening track, Rainy Day Women, 12 and 35, it's crazy. It sounds like the circus is coming to town. I mean, his previous two albums had Subterranean Homesick Blues and Like a Rolling Stone as the two opening tracks, which are two of his all-time best songs. Rainy Day Women is a bit different to them. It's a lot less commercial than those ones, but it's still a great, great song. Visions of Johanna, probably, I would say that's probably the greatest song ever written. That is a brilliant, brilliant song. One of Us Must Know, Sooner or Later, is probably my favourite on the album. I Want You is great. What else we got here? The thingy mob, I forgot the name of it. Leopard Skin Pillbox harp thing. That's a great little rocker. Just Like a Woman is on here, one of the best love songs he ever did. Most Likely You Go Your Way, I'll Go My Way. It's a brilliant song. I just keep saying the same thing here. And Sad Eyed Lady of the Lowlands, a 14-minute masterpiece. It's just like Dylan on this album was backed. Originally, he was backed by the Hawks, who were going to become the band. There was 2 sessions with New York sessions where he did that with the Hawks, and then he sort of abandoned them, except Robbie Robertson. He came with them to, I think, Memphis is where they went to. And then he had some really good sessions in here. Al Cooper is massively involved on here. Same with Highway 61. Al Cooper makes this album what it is. Without his organ playing on here, it would not be the album it is. I'm just rambling on here saying words and words and words. But it's just a brilliant album. And sadly, after this, he obviously had his bike crash, which is a shame, because I do wonder what would, if he hadn't had that and he kept going at this one, hadn't sort of disappeared for a while. Obviously, Psychedelia came after this. Could we have got a psychedelic Bob Dylan album? Who knows? I mean, he was a bit dismissive of Sgt. Pepper at the time. He didn't really like that, I don't think. But It would have been interesting to see if he would have done a psychedelic album rather than John Wesley Harding, which is a great album still. But anyway, so yes, that is my number one, Blonde on Blonde, which yes, I put it above Revolver. Let's just go with it. Quick, Ross, quick.
Aye. Yes,
Oh my
yeah.
God,
Before you
number
change your mind, yeah, absolutely. Aye. Well, that was. I think that was the album that probably got me into kind of Bob Dylan. I think it was the first one I bought. And again, just straight away, those songs that you mentioned just immediately grabbed me. Like Visions of Joanna, fantastic.
Yeah.
I Want You, One of Us Must Know. Oh, it's so good. But I think for me, I put Bringing It All Back Home just because I think it's just a bit more consistent. There's a couple of fillery songs for me on like Blonde on Blonde, like the Leopard Skin Pillbox Out. I don't like that. I don't like that one. But the one I do really like is like you didn't mention that Stuck Inside a Mobile.
Yes,
that's
is a great one.
I love that.
Brilliant, yeah.
That's brilliant. But then there's a couple other ones that just maybe not quite as strong, but it is a great record though. And then like a double album, like you say. I think that was one of the first double albums.
It maybe was the first. Well, maybe it was like the first major artist to do a double album. I think
studio double album.
Yeah, but it's. I think it's mainly just because the songs are that long. There's not really any more songs on this than any other album at the time. It's only 14 or 15 tracks on the album, which was just the going rate at the time, but. Because Mr. Dylan likes to do 14-minute songs, sometimes it makes.
And sometimes those are the best ones, to be honest. With Dylan, like one of my favourites is Desolation Row.
Yeah,
brilliant. Which is again like a kind of it's maybe not quite 14 minutes, but it's certainly a longer one.
9.5, I think.
Yeah, and it's just amazing. So you just get like absolutely lost in it. So I need to. I probably do need to give Dylan a bit more time overall, but he's fantastic. So
who knows? Ross, give him more time. He might be your number one.
What's that?
Give him more time. He might become your number one.
You never know. I'm not sure because I don't think there's any topping this album for me personally. Which you know what it is. I know what it is. It's Revolver at number one. Again, just not a surprise. I consider this as my favourite album, like of all time. Like when I did like my top 50, it's just it's the Beatles. As you said, it's the Beatles at their absolute coolest. Like look at them there, they're just absolute killer. Yeah. No, you're not a patch on them, Ollie. Yeah, you're not a patch. Sorry.
Last time I come on here.
No, but yeah. I mean, like they're just absolutely killing it, like on like this album. And I think, like you say, it's a good mix of them pushing the boat out like in like the studio while also still writing really, really solid songs.
Yeah.
Particularly McCartney. I think this is peak Paul McCartney. Like writing, like you said, like Eleanor Rigby for No One Here, There and Everywhere. Got to Get You Into My Life. They are some of his all-time greatest songs. I'd say Lennon actually peaked on Rubber Soul. I think Lennon's tracks on Rubber Soul are probably slightly stronger than this one's on here. But certainly they are kind of like the rockers, like on here, like he does, like She Said, and Anya Burke Can Sing are just so good. But I think it's like the guitar sound, it's like the whole band coming together, like on those songs, really make it. Like particularly like She Said with kind of like the great dueling guitar work going on, and like same with like Anya, and like same with like Anya Burke Can Sing like as well. Just incredible guitar. So it's some of my favourite guitar sounds, like on like those songs, like I would say. And then like the closing song, like Tomorrow Never Knows. Again, just echo everything you said. It still sounds like the future. And George Harrison again, really coming into his own, like as like a songwriter. Like I think probably he had a couple of good songs up to this point. Like If I Needed Someone, I Need You. Both really, really good songs, which I'd say are almost kind of rivaling Lennon McCartney. But I'd say by the time you get to this album, certainly Taxman, I'd say is
great song,
like as good as anything like Lennon and McCartney were coming up with like on here. And then like Love You Too, taking the Beatles in a much more different direction, like very much like showing like very much wearing like the Indian like influence like on like his sleeve, like on like that song. And again, very daring for like an album. Like I know that kind of like the sitar had been used in pop at this point. Of course the Beatles had done it, the Stones had done it on Paint It Black, but no one quite as like explicit like as like this. Anna's, I guess, faithful, like on like this song. So yeah, it's just an all-time great record. Like Revolver, definitely my favorite Beatles album, and yeah, I guess by extension my favorite album of all time, and by extension my favorite album of the '60s. So there we are.
I noticed neither of us mentioned Yellow Submarine. Interestingly, there.
That is interesting. I mean. Is it? I mean, I would never skip Yellow Submarine. Like, I'd never play it in isolation, but I'd never.
Yeah.
Skip it. When I listen to Revolver, it's part of the album. It's part of the experience. Again, it's almost a bit like Tomorrow Never Knows in some ways, because they're like, there's all like the sound effects and stuff going on. Like, everyone talks about Tomorrow Never Knows being an innovative track, but in its own way, where Yellow Submarine is quite, a bit of a kind of studio production sort of thing, like in like its own right.
Yeah, I got a new appreciation for Yellow Submarine with the Revolver box set a few years ago when they had them songwriting tapes. I know the one everyone talks about is the original Lennon version with the different lyrics, but I like the second songwriting tape on there where it's Lennon and McCartney both singing it together. Yeah, and it kind of makes me think, I kind of sad that Ringo sang it in the end and they didn't keep it that sort of folk sounding, which maybe wouldn't have fit on Revolver overall, but with Lennon and McCartney both singing the lead rather than Ringo. But obviously Ringo had to have a song. But
had to have a song, and I think that is the most fitting one. And he does a good, a good job of it. But yeah, I know a lot of people, like when like people say Revolver's the greatest album of all time, they say but it's got Yellow Submarine on it. But I don't mind Yellow Submarine.
You could say that about most albums.
Exactly. There's no real such thing as an absolutely perfect album that no one is gonna have a gripe with. Like, none of the songs, like there's gonna be like albums that there's always a slightly weaker track on any album going.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. But anyway, that has been a really, really good video there. Like, I think, I've really enjoyed making it.
Too.
Like seeing like your list, there's plenty there for me to check out and
me too.
Delve into. And like likewise as well. Yeah. So no, that's been good. So yeah, if you want to leave like some of like your favorite albums of the '60s down below in the comments, that would be much appreciated. And yeah, we'll both see you again for the next video at some point. Catch you later.
See you later.